I've tabled, really 3 questions, but really what I want to focus on, ladies and gentlemen, is really looking at what sort of outreach work your institutions have done, in particular with young people, to get them interested in the system. Well, I would say this, not just the systems and processes, but actually getting their ideas for the future of Cambridgeshire's transport. I don't know how many of you use public transport to get here today. I am dependent on public transport, and it's not fun getting from Cambridge to Camborne and back on that bus. I also, obviously on my way, saw lots and lots of sixth formers and students and school children obviously using public transport to get to school this morning. Obviously I was going in the other direction. So I really want those to be at the forefront as I put the following questions to you, which I'll be following up at future meetings. First one, what assessments have Assembly members made of the board's communication strategy for the city deal that was announced at the start of this year, with a specific focus on social media and community outreach? What views do Assembly members have for improving how the people of Cambridge and its institutions communicate with each other, in particular with reference to young people? And then also, following my question on the 28th of January 2015 to the City Deal Board regarding the Haverhill Rail campaign, what assessments have Assembly members made on the follow-up made by the board and their own scrutiny and the plans of the work by the rail campaign? Just basically to summarise, we've seen in the media very recently lots of interesting ideas about people's thoughts on the future of, in particular, transport in and around Cambridge. My plea really to all of you now is the institutions have got to step forward and start convening some really exciting and dynamic events to bring all of those events together and bring all of those people and ideas together, and in particular the information sets that your institutions have, so that the public can engage with you and to come up perhaps with improved and refined ideas for Cambridge's future infrastructure. Thank you very much.
The board's communication strategy was something that was adopted last November by the board before it started meeting in public and before we as an assembly existed, that I believe is publicly accessible online. It does refer to the contribution of online communications and a number of different methods of outreach, which I expect will be deployed when we start consulting on schemes. There hasn't been a full realisation, I think, of all of the expectations of the strategy yet, because an appointment has yet to be made of a head of communications for the city deal. We did discuss this earlier this year and approved a recommendation to the board to go ahead and fund that. I believe they have been trying to make an appointment, and that has been somewhat delayed. I would regard the right time for us to assess the strategy and its performance after we have got that person in place as a communications professional. I think it's important that we are dealing at that level before we get into that further as an assembly. I think we would want that appointment to be made as soon as we can, as soon as it can be done, and this gives us an opportunity to put that on the record, I think, as well. Your question about what our views are on improving communications between Cambridge, its institutions, and people in the area. I think it's obviously a big and important one, and I'm not sure we're really equipped to deal with that today. I think that's a sort of PhD thesis question. Our focus has to be on communications in relation to the city deal, and I think that focuses around our strategy and the way we deliver on it. And your question about the discussion on the Haverhill Rail campaign, which was actually a question you raised at the board in January, not with us. I have looked at those minutes, and they do describe an officer response, which was that there is an ongoing dialogue going on that subject. As this is not something that is a direct component of our programme, I wouldn't have assumed that we would be getting such immediate follow-up that today is soon enough to sort of demand a progress check. But as you raise that, it is appropriate to check with Graham Hughes whether we're still in that situation or has that situation changed. And we can find that out by asking you now. Graham?
Chairman, thank you. In terms of the rail issue specifically, nothing's changed from what was said at the board. Clearly, as Assembly members will recognise, there is work underway on the 1307 corridor.
Mr. Hughes, can I ask you to speak up, please, because I'm not getting anything on the audio.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm on the microphone, so I will try and speak a little bit louder. As the Assembly are aware, that there is work underway on the A1307 corridor, but that isn't specifically the rail issue. What I said to the board at the time was that the rail issue is a very much larger issue that we can deal with the budget that's available as part of the city deal, and indeed it's something that will be a much longer term process to deal with.
Thanks very much.
My name is Lynn Hyatt. I'm a member of several organisations, the Cambridge Cycling Campaign, the Save the West Fields Campaign, and a residents association. But today, I'm representing myself as a Cambridge resident for over 40 years and a taxpayer. So these are my own views. Recently, a number of innovative proposals to deal with traffic congestion have come to light in the press and in personal presentations by various individuals. Some, in my view, are quite imaginative, dealing with the root of the problem by eliminating it through smart traffic management of some sort, as opposed to accommodating congestion as if it were inevitable. For example, ideas such as electronic gates just outside the city, giving buses priority and thus predictable quick journey times for commuters, achieve the stated aims of the city deal options 1A to C and eliminate the need for vastly expensive, disruptive and extremely unpopular new bus roads down residential streets or through valued green spaces. There are other ideas, including bans on rush hour private cars, a metro system, road pricing schemes, congestion charging, employer parking space tax, better cycle paths within and from the villages, school transport via a fleet of buses at park and rides, tourist bus parking and the like. The initial elements of some of these plans could be delivered quickly and would be better, in my view, for taxpayers' money. Intelligent use of the smart technology would undoubtedly gain international attention and plaudits for the councils. I'm not advocating one particular proposal or the other, but I believe that the residents of Cambridge and the surrounding villages should be allowed to consider very carefully all good ideas for dealing with a problem that is personal to them every day. Can residents expect at least some of these other proposals to deal with congestion at the source to be added to the 3 currently on offer for city deal money? And if not, why not? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. But I think it's a very important question. I'm going to ask Graham if he would comment on it, please.
Thank you, Chairman. In relation, I think just the first point you make, I think it's important just to address specifically, you talked about electronic gating. I think we would prefer to call it queue relocation, because that's essentially what it is. Queue relocation. Relocation is essentially just pushing the queues to the outskirts of the city. I just want to make the point that in your preamble, it kind of suggests that is the solution. I just want to make the point that there are some very, very serious issues around that need to be assessed and haven't been adequately assessed at the moment. So just to make it clear that that is not necessarily a solution to the problem in the way that you express it. In terms of the particular issue you raise in terms of the question, ultimately that is a decision for the board in terms of how and what they consult on. There have been a number of discussions at the board where they've made it very clear that they do want to start a debate initially with those organisations in and around the city that generate significant amounts of traffic, and that was discussed at, I think, the last one board meeting. And then there's also a commitment to move on beyond that to wider consultation. So the process is very much live. What I can't say is precisely what will come out of that, because ultimately that is a decision for the Executive Board. But we will be advising them throughout that process, and they will take their decisions on the final form of that consultation.
Thank you, Graham. Could I just ask you to comment on the observation that I've formed through watching this process so far, that we are likely to be looking in the end at a mixture of solutions, in fact, rather than either or?
Chairman, I think it's fair to say that in these sorts of situations, generally a mix of solutions will give a better outcome than a single solution. What I can't say is what that mix of solutions will be, or indeed what the board will want to consider as, if you like, the consultation on that mix. But I mean, generally, to simply do one thing is going to be less effective than doing a number of things, because the problem that Cambridge and the surrounding area faces is a complex one. And that being the case, it's unlikely that there is going to be a single solution to deal with the whole of that complex problem.
Thank you. I made the observation that it's an important question. I do believe that it's something that that we need to expect the board to be consulting on also in the very near future. And a little bit concerned on my side anyway that there's a large variety of ideas out there coming from almost everyone except the city deal at the moment, and so we're going to need to jump into that space very soon. Thank you very much. The third question is from South Cambs District Councillor Des O'Brien. Good morning.
I'm live. Yeah, it's a very simple question actually, and although it doesn't relate specifically to something on the agenda today, it is related to the M11 Smith Road, because it relates to the Cambourne to Bourne bus route. I wanted to check the background really. I want to find, I'll read out the question because it seems as easy as anything. Could the city deal confirm what research has been completed to determine the increase in passenger numbers that will justify the cost of the Cambourne to Cambridge bus scheme by significantly reducing private car use? The latest figures from the 2011 census put the number of residents in Cambourne using the bus at 5%. I think it's something like 280 people. Indeed, that's all the journeys in Cambourne, not journeys from Cambourne to Cambridge, so the actual number could be fewer still. So I want to know, if possible, what work has been done to look at the numbers of increasing transport using the bus system, and how that justifies the rather large investment in the bus route, please.
Chairman, I think the first thing to say is that the A48 proposals at the moment are only at a very early stage, and so you'll be aware that we haven't yet started the formal consultation. That's due to start on the 12th of October. And it's very much on an in-principle basis to allow the Executive Board then subsequently to make decisions on the favoured scheme, and then there will be further consultation and development. So just to be clear, that scheme is, or that set of proposals is very, very early in its development stage at this moment in time. In terms of the business case, any scheme that's developed through the city deal will have to demonstrate to the Department for Transport that it has a positive business case in the normal way that transport schemes are developed. So if any scheme is put forward and doesn't have a positive business case, then the Department of Transport, under arrangements that we have with them, will not allow the spending to go ahead. Business cases are complex documents. It's not just about the number of passengers using the bus. It's about journey time savings. It's about a variety of other things for all users. And so we don't just focus on how many passengers, although clearly that is an important part of the overall equation. I think in a way the question you're asking is very, very similar to one asked by Councillor Bridget Smith several meetings ago. The answer I gave to Councillor Smith is the same answer I give to you, which is what we mustn't do is look at what's happening today as being a predictor of what will happen in the future on this particular route. So it's fair to say that at the moment the very small number of passengers in this corridor using the bus is quite simply because the bus services are not attractive, they're not sufficiently frequent, and therefore they're not, if you like, drawing people out of their cars. So the whole point of the city deal investment is to increase the attractiveness.
Could I just say that is an assumption you're making? Well, that is an assumption you're making, and I think in order to make that assumption, you have to
Could I just remind Councillor Ryan, it's not intended as a conversation here. You've asked the question, it's quite a succinct one.
So the point made to Councillor Richard Smith is that the services at the moment are not sufficiently attractive, and the whole point of the city deal investment is to make those services attractive, and we're absolutely convinced will deliver significant amounts of additional patronage. I'll make the same points that I made to Councillor Smith before, which was the busway is a good example of how investment in high quality public transport will improve patronage. We now have 3.75 million journeys on busway, when there was a fraction of that in the corridor before. The 1307 corridor, 10 years ago, there was a programme called Key Groups that increased the frequency from hourly to 20 minutes, and patronage multiplied by several hundred %. So there are many, many precedents to show that if you improve service levels and you actually make services frequent and reliable, you get a significant increase in patronage. Whatever happens though, coming back to the sort of nub of your question, any scheme that we put forward will have to demonstrate a positive business case, therefore be demonstrably good value for money, or the Department of Transport will not allow us to invest in it. And so that is, if you like, the key benchmark that all of these schemes will need to if you like, reach as, and this will be the first one, if you like, to demonstrate that that's the case, or indeed not.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor.